All right, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Saturday night. 11/11/2023 is the date. It is about 10:47 p.m. here, California time. Latest activity looks like some movement around Papua New Guinea here, with quite a few fives and some fours stirring up out here in the last hour. So things definitely ramping up there in that area of the world. Still seeing some earthquake activity up into the Iceland area, although a slight decline in the amount of earthquake activity. These folks here from the Iceland Meteorological Office here are still stating that a significant likelihood of a volcanic eruption is due in the coming days. There is about a 15-kilometer long magma intrusion located just northwest of Grindavik. I believe I pronounced that correctly. There's a couple different ways. If you look up this on, say, for example, Google Translate and whatnot, there's just all sorts of different pronunciations. So look at that line right there. I pulled up the Google Earth view near the Grindavik area, and there is the town there, a population of about, I think they said about 3,000 people or so. And this is the area where they believe the eruption will take place within this red line area. Now, of course, you got the town that's being evacuated. They processed that last night. These guys shut down. There's a place called the Blue Lagoon up here, and it's actually rather interesting here. There's it's like a pond area or water area, hydrothermal operations up here, where people just bathe in this area. It's kind of interesting here. I mean, I think that's a pretty good tourist area. Also, we got a power plant nearby here, a geothermal power plant, similar to what you would see. Well, okay, maybe not quite as a process involved as like the Clear Lake volcanic field area. This is a little bit different. Same general idea, though. They do utilize that heated magma below to create energy. And there is that line that sits literally within a short range of the Blue Lagoon, the power plant, a couple restaurants up here, and of course the town of Grindavik, where the most of the population density is. So they believe that this is going to erupt within this line. Now, if you look here, there's a little segment extending off into the, well, in this case, it'd be the northern Atlantic Ocean, right? Some fairly shallow waters here. Notice the depth here off of Iceland getting deeper when we look at these ridges here. So this is fairly shallow. Almost reminds me of the Gulf of Mexico. So not super deep water. If the magma does take place here and come up through this crack, or through a crack here, through a fissure, and interact with this very cold water, we could be looking at, of course, the explosive type eruption event. Not like Mount St. Helens or Yellowstone in a way, but similar to, magma and any kind of oceanic water, cold water. So that could play a little part in a lot of steam, a lot of interesting pictures. If you were, of course, away from this area in a safe region, that would be quite the view. But there's still a little uncertainty onto where it's going to crack open, so to speak. That's the best way I can explain this, is the earth cracking open and allowing that magma that has been accumulating in here since the end of October to finally make its way up to the surface. Again, today we've been seeing just minimal earthquake activity up here. Now, I'm sure there's a little bit more than what the Earthquake 3D program is showing. The best place to get that information from, of course, is from the site right here, the Iceland Meteorological Office. And they believe that the intrusion of magma is moving slowly upwards with about 800 meters below the surface there. So that's a little ways, right? That's a little ways below the surface. But again, the exact location of a possible eruption is not known, or is unknown. But that 15-kilometer length there in orientation of the dike gives a good indication of possible eruption sources. Once again, could happen anywhere around here. Some folks saying they believe firmly with certainty that it will probably start down here in the south, because that's kind of where the magma started brewing up for, as far as the GPS bulge there in the ground started kicking up, and then it worked its way up this way. So we'll see. But as of right now, the volcano is not erupting. This is the latest information here on the Iceland site, but it's coming. Definitely is coming. We'll check back here tomorrow for the latest information statement here. And, of course, if anything changes, we'll definitely jump back on here. All right, what else we got here for earthquake activity? Nothing showing up there on the USGS map. Those other quakes are from the EMSC model. Let's go ahead and check out the Papua New Guinea area. Quite the, it's east of here, it looks like. New Britain area, Bismarck Sea region. I did see a 5.9 earlier this evening, along with a couple other 5s in there, including a 4.9. Looks like maybe we could be looking at some larger earthquake activity stirring up here in this region. It's been in a zone that has seen, between deeper movement quakes out here and a cluster of activity here around the Band of Sea. You guys remember that earthquake activity in the past week? That's been quite the earthquake activity, although it's died down here in the last couple days, but that's been a hot spot of earthquake activity. So it looks like now, because we really haven't seen that migration here across the Java Trench, it looks like now it's starting to squeeze in between a little bit closer along this plate boundary. The bouncing back and forth effect here between deep and shallow earthquake activity puts this region, of course, in the middle. And that's kind of where we're seeing all that earthquake activity right now build up and compact here across this plate boundary. We'll continue to watch it overnight. There's a pretty shallow earthquake upstream. It looks like we may be getting a little further stress here from all the deep earthquakes that have been building up down there in the Tonga Trench area. The latest 1 to 4.8 into the Tonga area. There's a little bit of movement here in the Izu Trench. No major swarms. We do have one pretty deep earthquake here into that portion of the Izu Trench, 418 kilometers deep. So watch regions upstream potentially, and also here across the northwestern edge of the Filipino plate. Alaska area, very minimal at best. Pacific Northwest, not a whole lot showing up here, but we are going to double check the tremor map tonight. See what we have going on. Day number 2 of elevated tremor, although not elevated like 900 or 1,000 or more per day. It's still somewhat elevated compared to days past. 164 today. Yesterday we had 198. Little area here, pretty much covering the entire subduction zone of the Cascadia yesterday. Today's events mostly up north here into the Vancouver Island range. There's not a whole lot of earthquake activity popping up here, but it still means that there's stress out here building up into the area and pushing that Juan de Fuca plate a little bit further underneath the North American plate and creating some of that tremor. Not a whole lot of activity in Northern Cal today, although we did have, it looks like another 2.8 here off the coast of Petrolia, Eureka area, back prior to the Cascadia subduction zone yesterday. This was lighting up pretty good with some 4s and 3s. The rest of California, what you see is what you got here. Not a whole lot of activity stirring up there across the west coast for now. The Yellowstone area, Yellowstone supervolcano, pretty quiet. Nothing showing up here in the Wyoming region. Let's give a quick glance here real quick, see what we have. Yesterday's let's see here. This activity was late last night, early morning. A couple small earthquakes there. Nothing showing up on the USGS map. They'll probably get to it on Monday morning, if even that. Texas area, typical zones getting hit. The oil fields out there. The rest of the world, South America's got a pretty good cluster of movement here. Most of this, though, earlier this morning, with quite a few 4s and some deeper movement quakes. We're talking about almost 600 kilometers, 572 kilometers underneath the Argentina area. Big time trench here across the South America region, building up strain and stress. So watch that area pretty closely. Seeing a lot of deeper movement taking place here in the last couple days. Not a whole lot showing up there on the USGS map from New Zealand, and in fact, doesn't look like anything showing up here across this area for now on the Earthquake 3D globe. 3.0 coming in right now to the area of, looks like Turkey area, eastern Turkey area. over here in this region. We did have a 4.2 early this morning, just after 1 o'clock, though, so we're coming up on 24 hours there. But overall, I think we have to watch this area up in the Iceland region. What do we got up there in Alaska right now? Shows a 5-pointer. Did we see a 5-pointer, or was it just maybe a... Well, USGS reporting a 4.5 here along the Aleutian Trench. A little bit of issues there with the magnitude differences. Again, Iceland, got to watch that pretty closely. I think we'll see that kick back up here. The magma's down there. It's not going anywhere. It could. It could just be elevated and never actually make it to the surface. We've seen these events before. I think it was 2020, 2021 era when we've seen a little bit of uplift going on out here across the Reykjanes Peninsula. And with no eruption, just some elevated activity. But this here is a little bit more large scale. So we'll continue to watch that. The big island of Hawaii, earthquake activity. Mainly around the Kilauea volcano. Let's go ahead and check in with the USGS. See what's going on here. The HVO site is the folks to check out in terms of the latest information here. And it shows that the Kilauea volcano, is currently not erupting. And no activity has been noted across the East Rift Zone. Still seeing some earthquake activity. It looks like there's slight deflation over the last 24 hours, according to these guys. So let me double check that and see what we got for the deflation activity. And we'll go from there. We'll look at space weather activity. A lot of people calling a dud tonight in the space weather department. As far as that expected G2 class storm, we'll look here in just a second. Hello, what's going on there? There we go. Definitely seeing a little bit of deflation here over the last 2 days, it looks like, coming down from that swelling that was going on. We had a pretty good influx here of magma below the surface there of Kilauea volcano, indicative here by this intrusive event, indicating here on the chart that's elevated activity, inflation there at that summit region of Kilauea volcano. But it looks like we're starting to go down here slightly. But it's definitely been elevated here in the past week with that huge spike. All right, space weather activity. What's going on? Where's the auroras? Well, I think we're getting them right now, but not in the way that we were hoping for. I don't think we're going to see that huge event as far as a G2 class storm. This is the solar wind data, solar wind speed, temperature, density, and the BT-BZ component looks like it's starting to take a little south tilt there, which could amplify some conditions. But the CME passage is going to be right here on the speed. It does look like it has been elevated slightly up to around 550 or so in the KMS range. A little bit of temperature and density being created as well with the arrival of the CME, although it's not, we're not seeing any huge uptick in terms of the auroras right now. Yes, there is a little bit percentage, at least a chance up there in Canada and the Alaska area, but I don't think we're seeing it way down low here into the States like we were expecting. So we'll just have to watch that. If it is coming, it's a lot later than originally planned, which could be bad news here for a lot of the folks here across the eastern portion of the country because, well, they don't have too much daylight left before the sun comes up around. So we'll still kind of watching it. It was forecasted here 06 to 612. And current UTC time right now is 0700. So it could still be coming. Who knows? We'll have to watch that and see what comes in, right? All right, let's go back here to the map here and look at some sunspots or lack thereof. We do have numerous sunspots here across the western limb of the sun. And they are, well, they look fairly stable, but they're about really to not be visible anymore. They're about ready to be out of sight, out of mind. We do have a little sunspot region right here. Kind of, if you look close here, a little bit of complexity going on within this small little sunspot core. So it looks like maybe something's starting to brew up there in that area. Overall threat right now, 95% chance for a C flare, M flare at 35, X flare at 5. And after that, though, there's not a whole lot coming. So eastern limb of the sun looks pretty quiet. Unfortunately, that's just how it is for the current situation here with the sunspots. Storm Prediction Center, not a whole lot of severe weather. Rain, yeah, we got a little bit of rain coming out here to the west coast. Nothing like it had looked like here in the past couple days. We had a couple weather models change back and forth. Well, the latest model, let me bring up the west coast here, western U.S. This is a GFS model, and you can see the low pressure system spinning offshore, bringing rain into Northern California, but not quite. Well, it's changed slightly. It looks like maybe Friday into Saturday shows a pretty good band of rain hitting the Northern California area. But if this thing was just parked a little bit further to the east, like some of these models had shown, we'd be getting all these rainfall rates here into the California area, which we're supposed to be getting around 2 to 3 inches or more here for the West Coast. So that has changed. That's a GFS model. Now the ECM WF model is a European model. Let's see what these guys are saying here. As we put this into motion a little bit. As you can see, it hasn't really formed all the way, so we're not going to be able to see that completely. We'll check out the CMC model. This one here, let's go back a little bit and see what these guys are showing. Roughly about the same as the other models. Either way, it looks like we are going to be getting some rain. Let's see how much. Let's take a look and see how much we are going to get here according to the GFS model. Total accumulated precipitation out here. I wish we had all that, but unfortunately, I just have to appreciate what's coming this way, and that's it. Here around the Sacramento Valley, it looks like maybe up to half an inch. We went from 3 inches down to half an inch here over these next couple storm systems, unfortunately. And maybe some closer, closer to the west coast here, north of San Francisco could see a little bit more, but nothing fancy. It had the potential to be a pretty big wet storm. Doesn't mean that there's not more on the horizon. I think there is. Let's go back here to the numerical model and show you guys long-term trends. A lot of people complaining about the heat out east. Well, it looks like it's going to stick around for a little bit, guys. At least through, let's see here, through the weekend into next week. You guys got a massive high-pressure system building out here across the Great Lakes area, bringing up some warm air. No sign of winter out there. And for the most part, it looks like it may last for the majority of this coming week. Although the weekend, next weekend, looks like may have a little low pressure dipping down. There's our storms out in the west coast. This is going to be an off and on pattern, I think, with potential chances of rain and higher elevation snow out there. But I'm not seeing anything major going on far as any high pressure building out here across the west, which is good. But man, we could sure use a little bit more precipitation, that's for sure. Let's go over here to the windy model. I'm going to check something real quick here and see what these guys are forecasting for rain accumulation from the ECMWF model. Technically, it's the next 5 days. We'll include the next 10 in there as well. There's that low pressure. You can see where most of the rainfall rates are. Here around the Chico area, well, whoop-de-doo. Well, you know what? I need to be appreciative because that is some rainfall, and I will take that over 80 degrees. We've had years in the past where it's been 80 degrees here throughout the month of November, and that's not cool. Up in the mountain range, you guys are out of luck, it looks like. Most of the precipitation is going to be Sierra Nevada westward here, it looks like. But again, not much. Not much. GFS model has roughly about the same here for the Chico area. In fact, it's almost identical. They're about half an inch or so. And the HRR will not go out that far, but we'll take it. We'll take any precipitation we can out here. And I think I don't think we're going to see some major storms until probably around December, January, February. That's when things really start getting geared up out here. With the El Nino running through those months there, continuing to strengthen, we should see California get plenty of rain. So a little disappointed with this round, but that's not the end of it. There's definitely a lot more coming. What in the world happened down here? Hold on a second. What's wrong with this one? That is not cool. So I was trying to find a couple more Iceland stations here to put up. The one I was using went offline, and I'm not for sure why. But it is. So I'm not for sure if I can get any more Iceland stations to key up here. This is the one I was using just north here of this area. And yeah, I don't have any data coming in right now, unfortunately. I don't know if they pulled the plug or they have issues going on with, maybe they shut down power. I don't know what all the procedures are during the evacuation over there of the Grindavik area. So we'll shut that down, and I'll keep trying. I'll see if I can find some more because it's pretty important to see what's going on as far as seismic activity over there in the Iceland region with that volcanic activity. But again, the latest information there does show that significant likelihood of a volcanic eruption is coming in the days ahead. Watch this area. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on, folks. Tomorrow, enjoy the rest of your Saturday night and have a safe and happy evening. Take care, folks.